Howdy everyone, it's Sam. Welcome back to Wobble Enjoy Sports. If you're new around here, hope I can get you to consider to like the content and subscribe to the channel. But if you are a regular around these here parts, thank you very much for the continuous support. It didn't take long for us to have a top of the table clash in the BMD Premiership this season, but that's exactly what we got coming our way this weekend from the Sunshine Coast Stadium this Saturday from 4:30 p.m. Queensland time. The Falcons versus the Cutters, first versus second, and technically the Mackay Cutters are first. Go you freaking Cutters. Before I get into the actual preview itself, let's highlight the teams coming into this weekend. And there are a couple of changes for the Cutters, but we'll start with the home side who have their first ever home game in the BMD Premiership this weekend. Captain Hayley Maddock, the wingers Michaela Henry and Sheridan Gallagher. The centres, Zoe Parfremont and Keisha Lee Coolwell. The halves, Lane Bennett and Maddie Studden. The forwards, Annette Brander, Tyler Mitchell and Ella J. Harris. The back row, Shania Gray, Maruri Barnett and Remy Hinkesman. Interchange is Jordan Jackson, Holly Wheeler, Otissa Pule and Imogen Tomafai. Into the Mackay Cutters now, and at fullback, Crystal Blackwell. The wingers, Montana Best and Ebony Rafstrand-Smith. The centres, Shelley Long and Kim Hunt. The halves, Kayla Shepherd and Tallulah Tillett. The forward pack, Madison Hegarty, S.A. Banu and Captain Emma Manselman at hooker. The back row, Tiana Rafstrand-Smith, Bree Chester and Pani Rupapere. And the interchange reads Emily Bella, Sarika Muka, Elle Stitt and Lily Peacock. I got to save my excitement for the Mackay Cutters, but we'll start with the Sunshine Coast Falcons, who had their first ever game last weekend away from home, and they won 34-16, well and truly wrapping things up at or by half time. The scoreline was 28 points to 6. The final scoreline was 34 points to 16. And while 28 points to 6 is nothing to sneeze at, I am going to be brutally honest. I watched that game and I'll say that the Brisbane Tigers, unfortunately for them, they had the case of the dropsies and their defense was not where it had to be inside the first 20 minutes or so. But to give more credit to the Sunshine Coast Falcons as well, oh my goodness gracious me, Hayley Maddock went absolutely berserk in that game with a try, one, probably two or more try assists herself. She was electric and unstoppable in that contest. And before I go on any further, the actual stats for every player and the team stats have not been created yet for the Sunshine Coast Falcons. So I can't give you too much of a detailed analysis other than what I saw from the Sunshine Coast Falcons BMD Premiership team this past weekend. Hayley Maddock was insane. Maddie Studden in at halfback, she controlled and marched her troops down the paddock beautifully. She herself had a try assist that resulted in a try for one of her wingers from a kick, crossfield kick. And what I've noticed in this Sunshine Coast Falcons team is that a lot of them obviously have come through the Sunshine Coast Women's Rugby League competition. I wouldn't say core, but there is a group of women that played with each other from about 2021, and either they stuck with it or they moved on to a different team. But they've all kind of had an affiliation with the Caloundra Sharks in the Sunshine Coast Rugby League Women's Competition. Michaela Henry, Zoe Parfrement, Ella J. Harris, just to name a handful of ladies as well. So while they're a brand new team, there is a group of women that are actually familiar with each other, and I'm sure that that has definitely helped along the way, because this past weekend there was at least four debutantes in the BMD Premiership this past weekend for the Sunshine Coast Falcons. And whilst I've waxed lyrical about Hayley Maddock and Maddie Studden, she showed her experience and she's killing it at the moment. She also had her halves partner Lane Bennett, who took the winner Manly Seagulls to the grand final last season. Unfortunately, that resulted in a loss, but I do recall Bennett a couple of occasions last season, and there's definitely a reason, and she was definitely a huge reason as to how they got into the grand final last year. But what really stood out to me was the pace at which they played. They were a really fast team, man, always moving. And again, the Brisbane Tigers did not help themselves, but the Sunshine Coast Falcons unit, with Hayley Maddock kicking everyone's backside, man, they were a fast team. So just to move on into the negatives now for the Sunshine Coast Falcons, I think there was way too many drop ball for the Sunshine Coast Falcons, and their defense at times didn't look like it would hold steady. I know that it was 28-6 at halftime, but I truly think that it was more to do with how the Tigers did not play, more so than how the Falcons did defend, because the Tigers did cross on a couple of occasions. They did crack them or have them split open, but just a bit of unlucky moments in play did not allow them to score. Also, that second half, I know that you can forgive a brand new team who are up 28-6 at halftime for taking their foot off the pedal, but it was 12-6 in the second half to the Brisbane Tigers, thus resulting in the 34-16 scoreline in favour of the Falcons. So it is a very... No, I can't say that it's a very young team, because you got the likes of a Holly Wheeler, Otessa Paulay, and Maddie Studden, Hayley Maddock. There is some definite experience there, and Lane Bennett has just got enough experience. She's still very young, but she's still just got that enough experience to really be a good offsider to Maddie Studden. But the rest of the side is pretty young and raw. There's also young Ella J. Harris and Jordan Jackson, who I thought worked really nicely as a hooking combination, both debuting last weekend and both scoring a try on debut. And they had just as much pace as the quickest dummy half in the game, and their service from the ruck was equally as good. But there's a lot there to work on, which you can take as a positive, obviously. But I think there's a lot there to work on for the Sunshine Coast Falcons. All right, now, so let's talk about the Mackay Cutters. Dude, that was the most impressive performance, I think, of the entire weekend. No, I haven't seen all of the games yet, but from everything that I've read up, that may have been the most impressive performance by a couple of levels too, just quietly. The Cutters winning 28 points to 10 to get themselves a plus 18 for and against. That has them sitting on top of the BMD Premiership ladder. The entire team missed 7 tackles only, and they would have been sitting at well above 85% tackle efficiency. I wouldn't be surprised if you told me it would be 90% tackle efficiency. They missed 7 tackles as a team collectively, and I understand that the possession was 58 to 42%. I get that, but to only miss 7 tackles and the next best team was sitting at approximately the mid-20s is outstanding, and that is such a rare stat to see, with all due respect, in the BMD Premiership. That may be as low of a missed tackle stat as I've ever seen in that competition. But what's even better is they had the second best completion rate of the weekend at 74% completed, 26 of 35. And while they were the second best, they did complete the highest number of sets. The next best, I believe, was the North Devils with 24 completed sets. Mackay Cutters completed 26 completed sets. And the other great part about it is they used the footy. Mackay finished with approximately 16 offloads, and I think maybe only 1 or 2 of them hit the deck and bounced back up into the lap of someone. But they completed and they used the footy. Their first contact, hit and stick, was great, and so too was their scramble when it needed to be called upon. and they only missed 7 tackles in total. That's an outstanding first hit out. There's 2 women that really kicked ass this weekend, and seemingly the performance of the entire round, which was just announced a couple of hours ago by Queensland Rugby League, it did go to Tiana Rafstrand-Smith, who played in the second row. And I'll read you some stats here. So Miss Rafstrand-Smith had a try, 17 runs for 201 meters, but 95 post-contact meters. What? 5 tackle breaks and 12 tackles for no misses, and played the entire 80 minutes. Like, dude, what an incredible outing from Miss Tiana Rafstrand-Smith. Absolutely setting the standard for everyone, not just in her own team, but throughout the entire BMD Premiership. The other lady that I really want to highlight, and I did last weekend, and she's given me another reason to do so once more, at fullback, Miss Crystal Blackwell. There is a fair bit of Scott Drinkwater in this very young lady who has not hit her peak yet in any way, shape or form. Heaven help everybody when she does. And if it's with the North Queensland Cowboys, they'll be building a friggin' statue of her. Sorry, I'm going off a little bit here, but such was her performance. It was really, really good from Miss Blackwell. She had 19 runs for 159 running meters, 60 post-contact meters as a fullback, 1 line break, 1 try assist, 1 tackle break, and she had 6 offloads with a tackle efficiency of 90%, 9 tackles for only the 1 miss, I think. She did have 2 errors, but you can forgive that because she's the fullback, getting involved with the 6 offloads and whatnot. Jasmine Peters, she was only able to play 53 minutes, but she looks like she had a knee-on-knee contact injury, and that's why she has not been named this weekend. So Montana Best, she came off the bench and played 53 minutes, man. Had herself 12 tackles, 7 runs for 61 meters as well. And she was playing front row, second row, and then she found herself all the way out in the friggin' wing, I think, at one stage, or at least the center position. So that's why Montana Best is playing on the wing this weekend, and Kim Hunt has moved into the centers to partner Shelley Long, with Ebony Rafstrand-Smith also maintaining her wing position for the Mackay Cutters. And just on both center wing combinations from last weekend, including Jasmine Peters, they combined for only 1 missed tackle. That's fantastic. All of them made on average 9 meters every single carry. And I've got to highlight Shelley Long as well. It could be very easy to the naked eye to say that she had a decent game. She had an underrated game. She had a very good game, actually. 8 runs for 84 running meters, 39 post contact, 2 tackle breaks, and 14 tackles for 0 missed. I think Shelley Long was really solid last weekend. An underrated performance by Miss Long. And Jasmine Peters, man, she scored 2 tries in the space of, well, inside the first 15 minutes, I think it was. But she looks scything, man. She's coming back from an injury, but hopefully that she's only going to miss this weekend. Hopefully it's just a really nasty cork. Hopefully it's not too much damage to Miss Jasmine Peters, because she's so deadly. She is lethal, bro, whether she's a winger or a center. Jasmine Peters is lethal. Also, Miss Kim Hunt, she did her thing, still approximately 8 or 9 runs for about 80 or 90 odd meters sort of thing. Ebony Rafstrand-Smith as well. She's a young thing that played for the under-19 State of Origin last year, and she had 6 runs for 73 running meters. 2 tackle breaks as well, and about 6 tackles off the top of their head for 0 missed. There's something there in Ebony Rafstrand-Smith. She needs just a couple more years, hey, just to develop her power and get a little bit more confident as well. But she's got the speed, and she's got a level of power, obviously. But there's something there in Ebony Rafstrand-Smith, man, where she looked like she was going to tackle break everyone and break the line every single time. And just speaking of breaking the line, Tweed, they scored the 2 tries through Taryn Aiken, and I got to say, man, Mackay Cutters, they actually didn't have their line cracked, in my opinion. It's kind of rare that I get to use this sort of terminology or this phrasing, but Taryn Aiken scored an intercept try from about 18 metres away, and scored under the posts as well. And Taryn Aiken, whilst yes, there was a break from about the halfway line, there was a kick that was put in, there was an unfortunate ricochet, and it just happened to land in the hands of Taryn Aiken. Goal line defence from the Mackay Cutters was great. So it got to, I think it was 18 points to 10 early on in the second half after the Cutters got out to an 18-0 lead. And the Tweed Seagulls were coming in with Taryn Aiken and Olivia Kernick and Jessica Elliston, all helping the Seagulls trying to get their first win in 2 years. It's like, oh, here we go. Now we're going to see what the Cutters are like. And the Cutters, they lost momentum. They held firm. They didn't have their goal line defense broken. Their 2 tries that they conceded came from wild pieces of luck for Taryn Aiken. And then once they got the possession back, they played their natural game. They completed high. They still offloaded at will. They made 60 odd meters, I think, on average, every single set. And then they just dominated, man. The Mackay Cutters won that game on the weekend inside the first 20 minutes, basically. Yes, there was a sniff there for Tweed for about 15 minutes on either side of halftime there. But the Cutters won this game inside the first 20 minutes through sheer amount of possession, territory, high completion rates, and almost no missed tackles as well. And when it started getting dicey, they held firm, bro. Mackay Cutters looked so zoned in, man, and so well oiled. And that's the thing. This Sunshine Coast Falcons team that the Cutters are taking on this weekend, their coach was only announced about a month ago, basically, maybe 5 weeks ago. Coach Marco Peters has been the coach of the Cutters, since the start of last season. But this group have been together for maybe 3 or 4 years now. And you wonder what things would have been like last week, or what it could be like if China Palata is available, if Shania Power comes back into the fold before finals comes about. Based off of round 1, and it's only round 1, but there's something there in this team this season, because damn, that forward pack must have heard me last week when I said I think the Tweed Seagulls have got the better forward pack. Well, Miss Madison Hegarty and S.A. Banu, they took that to heart. They absolutely killed it. Madison Hegarty, starting at prop, played 53 minutes, 14 runs for 166 meters for 94 post contact, 13 tackles, 0 missed. S.A. Banu scored 1 try, 13 runs for 125 running meters, 61 post contact, 5 tackle breaks, and zero tackles missed. Played 38 minutes. S.A. Banu, when Miss Hegarty were eating raw meat for a friggin' fortnight before Saturday rolled about, they were brutal, bro. They were brutal. And I just thought maybe coming up against the likes of Jessica Elliston and Olivia Kernick sort of thing, they're a little bit more established, with all due respect. They didn't give a bugger. And speaking of someone that may have heard me last week, I said last weekend that one Miss Bree Chester, I thought maybe her defense could improve this season. Well, she's already absolutely hit it out of the friggin' ballpark. She topped the tackle count for the Cutters last weekend, 24 tackles for only 2 missed, which is great. And her running meters, 11 runs for 117 running meters, 49 post contact. And then the 24 tackles with only the 2 missed, and with a couple of tackle breaks, playing the full 80 minutes. Bree Chester, holy dooly. That's an outstanding effort. Miss Pane Ripapare, she only had 5 runs, but I think she did a lot of communication, and she's got about 4 years experience, maybe more than that, in the BMD Cup. And I think she did a lot of ordering around for the team as well. Miss Emily Bella and Emma Manselman, I think they're fantastic. While they both ran 4 times, and Emma Manselman had the try assist and she had the line break assist or so, Emily Bella nearly scored on her first touch of the friggin' game, and she also had 6 or 4 offloads in her game as well. They both look very similar. There's a bit of a presence and a stature about Miss Emily Bella, I must add, but Emma Manselman, again, her support play is one of, if not the best in all of women's rugby league. She is outstanding, bro. And then just Sarika Muka, she to me had an underrated game, something that I didn't really pick up on throughout. 8 runs for 80 meters, and she scored the match-winning try as well. Sarika Muka did her thing. El Stitt, 19 tackles for 0 missed. Kayla Shepherd, I thought she was good. Just handed off the ball with great timing. And Tallulah Tillett getting a 40-20, kicking for 156 meters from 8 kicks as well. I thought Tallulah Tillett did really well last weekend as well. So coming off the bench in jersey number 17 this weekend, the new face for 2024 is Lily Peacock. Oh, if you don't know, you're not ready. Lily Peacock is an absolute kamikaze, bro. And I cannot wait to see her get around her work this weekend. The Cutters, I think they were the most impressive side of the weekend in round 1. They're coming up against the Falcons side who are playing their first ever home game in front of the faithful. They won their first game off of some brilliant, fast-paced attacking plays, but I do think that their defense, if they came up against a better side than what the Brisbane Tigers were, with all due respect, last weekend, it probably doesn't end in 34-16. Mackay Cutters are that team now. Mackay Cutters are that team that can absolutely come down to Sunshine Coast and spoil the party for the Falcons. I absolutely believe that the Cutters can get this one done. I think that they've got to be so ready and aware of Hayley Maddock and this already maybe new combination that she's got happening with winger Michaela Henry. Michaela Henry on the wing looked really good. Yeah, sure, she scored a couple of tries from Maddock and Studden's experience. But no, Miss Henry looked the goods, man. And it'll be really fascinating to see how Ella J. Harris combats Emma Manselman. Both really fast off of the start from the middle of the ruck sort of thing. So yeah, I'm looking forward to those couple of matchups as well. But that back row of Chester, Tiana Rathstrand-Smith and Pani Ripapere coming up against the likes of Miss Bennett and Gray and Hinksman as well, both fairly inexperienced players. I think that's where Mackay Cutters can indeed get them. And if SA Barnum and Hegarty replicate what they did last weekend, whoa, like holy moly, man, they might be going deep in 2024 just based off of what was produced. However, it is forecasted to thunderstorm this weekend, so completions are going to be absolutely key. And after what they did this past weekend, there's no reason to believe why the Cutters can't do a similar job. So I can't be any more impressed with what the Cutters did on Saturday. I really can't, bro. Especially I'll just say this one last time, like the way that they went out to an 18-0 lead and they copped a bad piece of luck with Taryn Aiken scoring a ricochet try, and then they conceded a try through an intercept to Taryn Aiken, who ran 80 meters. Those are the only 2 tries that you conceded, and they came on the attack. They had a good wave of attack where they had to defend for maybe 5 minutes or so inside their own 30 zone, just off the top of the dome. Correct me if I'm wrong. But for them to stand firm and then get the momentum back, that's a sign of a well-drilled unit, man, and they looked exactly that. So come on, you Cutters. I'm crossing my fingers that I'll actually be able to get there this weekend to support you in person. So thank you very much for your continued support. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Thank you. Take care. Adios.